All right, Henry, can you state your full name?
Henry W. Naruszewicz.
Henry, how old are you?
105.
And you were born in 1916.
Right.
Today is a historic day, as I mentioned, because you just became the oldest man on the rifle in my 5-year journey meeting World War II veterans. I believe you are the 204th person to sign that rifle.
Oh.
What unit did you serve with in the Second World War?
I was drafted in 43, and I got discharged in 45.
And you were in the field artillery?
Armored field artillery.
Sure. What was the which unit?
276, armored field artillery.
Were you drafted or did you join the military?
I was drafted.
How'd you feel about that? Were you happy about it?
No, my wife wasn't happy. Because I got married in 1940. That's long before Pearl Harbor even. So we had a daughter 5 months old when I was drafted. So my wife was worried.
How many kids did you have?
One.
One. Is she still alive?
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. I meet a lot of veterans who actually outlive their kids at this age. I also have a son, and I have another one on the way. So.
Oh, I see.
Mm-hmm. Where did you go to basic training?
Fort Knox.
Was it there you found out you were going to be in the artillery?
No, but I figured we were going to be tanks in some way or another.
So tell me about your job in the armed forces. What was your responsibility?
Well, when I was assigned to the 276, as I said before, that's armored field artillery unit. So we had 3 firing batteries, and they had 1 tank for each battery that acted as a forward observer. And it was my job to keep those tanks running, the 3 tanks, plus I was in headquarters battery, incidentally. And we had half-tracks. We had about 8 to 9 half-tracks in headquarters. I worked on those Jeeps, the trucks, and eventually we got one of those vehicles they call the Weasel. Remember, you're familiar with that? Well, that was used in the spring of the year when the ground got soggy and muddy. It tracks very wide. It used to carry artillery shells to the firing battery.
When did you head to Europe?
14 days to cross the ocean, because of course you zigzag to avoid the submarines. At one point, the destroyer escort started dropping depth charges, and we thought we were going to get attacked, but they might have got the sub if it was a sub, but we don't know what happened. And aboard this freighter, they had, I think it was about a 75 millimeter cannon in the rear deck, in the rear stern of the ship. And they had Navy personnel that took care of that. And they arrested a gun, but I didn't hear any shooting, though. But that was 10 days out of New York. Oh, 10 days out of New York, we got word that D-Day happened. 4 days later, we landed at Liverpool. And we got on trains. They took us to an area near Bath, England. And they like a tent city set up for GIs there with these pyramidal tents. I think it's about 8 or 9 or 10 to each tent. I think it was 8. And what we spent there, we're just doing road marches, teaching us jujitsu, stuff like that. And toward the end of the month, we put us back on train and went to Southampton. And we boarded a ship, we crossed the channel, and we docked at Omaha Beach. We could do that because we didn't have any vehicles with us, just what they carried on our backs, you know. And of course you had to climb that steep cliff because vehicles couldn't climb that cliff. Matter of fact, the shore battery that the Germans had there was out of commission, and the route that we traveled up the cliff was right beside it. We couldn't spend time looking to see, inspect it further because there was guys trying to climb that cliff there. And then when we got up on top of the cliff, we waited a while. They got to have trucks pick us up and take us to a replacement center. And that was like a tent city set up in the woods.
So is this mid-June?
This was in July. This was in July.
July, yep.
Now, when I say tent city set up, we live in pup tents, shelter house.
Sure.
2 guys to a tent. And one funny thing happened during the time we were there. We got called out. It was at nighttime. And they asked us, they had some fellas, they just come out of the hospital because they were wounded. And they had nowhere to put them. It was too dark to set up a tent for them. So they asked us to take one guy with us. Oh, Jesus, how are you going to take one more guy with you? It's true to a pup tent. You ever live in a pup tent? Anyway, when we got to our tent, we found there was 2 of them. His buddy, the one that we took, had a buddy that would come along with us. Now we got 4 guys sleeping in one tent. Well, that was not sleeping. We just, if they turned over, it all turned over at the same time. Anyway, that was just one day. Well, as the front moved up, because we could always hear firing during the daytime and nighttime even. We were that close to the front with this replacement center. And as the front moved up, we moved up. And then in October, I got orders to move out. There was myself and another guy. And he wasn't in our pup tent, but he was from the other part of it. It's a good thing because he was about a 6'4" guy. He carried an M1. I don't know why he carried an M1. We all had McCarbines. And that M1 looked like a cannon compared to ours. So we both got assigned to the 276. I went to headquarters battery. He went to one of the firing batteries. And as I said, we got converted over to Patton's Third Army. And from then on, it was just go, go, go. We wouldn't stay in one place for maybe 2 days at the longest. Always on the go. Matter of fact, the first day I got assigned to the outfit, we had to spend a night in the barn, and we started getting shelled. So one shelled in front of the building, we didn't move. Another shell beyond the building, then we stopped moving because there was actually going to be a dead center. What they were doing was bracketing the building, but it didn't happen though. Anyway, we spend, let's see, in northern France we spend about from October to in December. And around the D-Day happened on the 16th of December. And it was right around the 20th, I think, we put an alert. We were going to be going somewhere. Because Patton, I didn't know this at the time, but years later, during one of our reunions, the colonel mentioned how Patton told him that we had one of the best armored field artillery units that he's seen. So he sent us up to the Bulge. At that time, they didn't call it the Bulge, it was Ardennes. And we got up to Luxembourg 2 days before Christmas. And if you was to check with Google, they said that Patton's Third Army got up there the second day after Pearl Harbor, after Christmas. But that's not true because I know definitely, and I can swear to that we got up there 2 days before Christmas. So eventually, we worked our way up to Luxembourg to a place called Heiderscheid. That's the headquarters battery. I don't know, the firing batteries are around us somewhere, but we're spread out, you know. Matter of fact, I didn't even meet the guys from the firing batteries fell out of the wall. Because we weren't roaming around trying to play best buddy with them. We had enough to do to stay in the headquarters battery. And different things happened. I almost got killed over there because I had guard duty the last two and one night there, early morning just before dawn broke, and we started getting shelled. And I was walking around, we had a half trailer as a vehicle. We had a trailer behind it that had our luggage. And as I was running the trailer, a shell hit that trailer. I didn't even hear it come in, it was so close. I don't know why I didn't get killed that time. But anyway, apparently it was because I must have been on the other side of that trailer when the shell hit.
Was this in Belgium?
No, this was in Luxembourg.
Luxembourg, yeah.
But we were about 9 miles as a crow flies from Bastogne. And Bastogne is where the 101st was hauled up and the Germans were surrounded by Germans.
My grandfather was in the 10th Armored. He was there too.
Is that right? Mm-hmm. I believe we did give firing support to the 10th Armored, I believe.
Wow.
Matter of fact, 80th Infantry Division too.
Yep.
Yeah. They were there at the time.
How many divisions did you support with artillery over the course of the war?
About 10.
10 different divisions.
Yeah.
That's a lot of firing missions.
That's a lot of firing. We fired 90,000 rounds of ammunition through that campaign, all told.
Did you ever go through the towns that you saw after you guys shelled them and saw the destruction?
Not usually, no. But the only thing we could say is, after we left the Bulge area, we went into the Rhineland. I think it was more or less chasing the Germans because they were retreating, but at the same time they were fighting back. And they went back into the Rhineland. So we were following them around there, capturing a lot of them. And we went through the city of Bitburg. Now, I don't know if you are familiar with Bitburg, but I never saw a city so bombed like that one was. Not through our bomb, but airplanes. It was razed to the ground. Terrible. And when I think it was Reagan was president, he went over to the Bitburg to some kind of a procession they had there, and people complained that he'd done that because that city was known to be occupied by the SS troopers. Well, if they had seen the city of Bitburg, they wouldn't feel sorry because it was done completely. Because no matter what city we went through, we saw destruction, but not in the whole city, just portions of it. As a matter of fact, we never stayed in any city. We stayed in like little villages. Because an artillery outfit is not going to stay in the city. It's going to be on the outside. Well, after we crossed the Rhine, I think it was around March or so. I'm sorry I didn't have that schedule with me.
No.
I had the dates, but it was around at a place called Oppenheim. And then we start going into the Central Europe. We were in 4 different campaigns. Northern France, Ardennes, Bulge, Rhineland, and Central Europe.
Did you guys ever take counterbattery?
What do you mean?
Did you ever come under German 88 fire from a counterbattery?
Oh yeah, oh sure, almost all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, when we used to stop for the night when the weather was good decent, we used to dig it like a sled trench to sleep in, just so we were below the surface of the ground. In case a shell fire come in, it wouldn't touch us. So it was a kind of everyday occurrence. And eventually we went into Austria, but just a brief day or so because there wasn't too much activity. And from this, now we're going into the month of April and early May. And then we've come out of Austria and we went to Czechoslovakia. Now, we went into a place called Struckenitz. And they greeted us like heroes because they were free from the Germans. I never expected that. I thought it was going to be another campaign. And
did you guys come across any concentration camps or anything?
We didn't, no. We didn't, not our outfit. But some outfits close to us did.
Did you guys, did you take a lot of German prisoners? Did your outfit take a lot of German prisoners?
They didn't take many, but we saw a lot of combined by the outfit. We'd be moving from one location to another, toward the front.
Yeah.
And there's probably about 100 or 200 German prisoners marching with their hands like this. As long as they stayed that way, nobody bothered them. Mm-hmm. They're marching, they didn't have any watching them because we're moving with vehicles. As long as they were marching, nobody bothered them. So we saw hundreds of them going back. And I don't know how far back they went because we couldn't bother taking them. And matter of fact, in one place there, we captured some German majors. And he asked us why we were fighting because we were losing the war. Well, we laughed at that.
How are the civilians? Did you have any contact with French or Belgian civilians? Or
Oh, yeah.
how did they treat you?
Okay, no problem. No problem.
Did you have any friends of yours get wounded by the artillery or anything?
Yes, but very few. Very few.
Any of your M7s get destroyed throughout the tour?
M7s? No, one of our tanks did, though. One of our tanks. Matter of fact, that tank there, I replaced an engine in it. In one place called Collenbach. And about 3 weeks later, it was destroyed. It set a fire, of course, and that was the end of it.
Now is that called the M7 Priest? Is that the nickname, the Priest?
It might have been, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
There's some things I don't remember. The name's familiar, though.
When do you turn 106?
January 1st.
Okay, so you just turned 105.
Yeah, 105, yeah.
We're gonna have an M7 come for your 106th birthday. We're gonna shoot it off in the park over here.
I had taken. We had one of our reunions in Louisville, Kentucky, and while we were there, we went to take a trip to Fort Knox to the Patton Museum, and we spotted some M7s there.
Yep.
And the guys got confused, all excited. M7s, hey! Of course, to me, it didn't make any difference because that wasn't our vehicle that I was used to.
Yeah.
I was used to the regular tanks.
Right.
And so I took a picture, but I can't find the damn thing now. I'd like to show you that, but I can't show you.
Oh, no worries.
Yeah. But
did you know any boys from the neighborhood that were killed in the war?
not around here, no.
Okay.
No.
That's good.
Matter of fact, when I was in the service, I didn't even meet anyone from the city of Lowell. Not a single person. Very few from this part of the state even. And because the outfit that I was in, mostly from the South. Tennessee, Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana. Well, when we, about 2 days after we get into Czechoslovakia, the war ended. And we didn't stay in the city of Struckenitz. We moved out the next day before the war ended. And that's when the war did end. So the German Army of Occupation started to come back through our area. And they were dropping off all their arms and ammunition that they had, with the exception, I think, of one or two, some for own protection. And when that Army of Occupation went into the city of Struckenitz, the people mobbed them because they were incensed about having them come through there. So they beat them up. And they were coming back with their heads bandaged up. It was hard feelings, you know. Mm. In fact, as the Germans were coming through, they were coming through in all different means. Motorcycles, command cars, trucks. And one truck, they were overheated. and the soldier that asked for the civilian for some water, he brought him a bucket of water, and he was pouring it into the radiator. And when he filled the radiator up, he wanted to take a drink of it. And that's when the civilian dunked it out of his hand. Wouldn't let him take a drink even. I don't know why, but the feeling was so hard against him. You understand? Mm-hmm. Well, we stayed there in this location for another couple of days, I guess, and then we got orders to move out. So we moved back into Germany to a place called Boden, where we did occupation duty for the month of June. So the war ended in May. And so the month of June we were doing occupation duty in Boden, Germany, which is situated along the banks of the Danube River.
Did you have respect for the German soldiers?
Anyone?
Did you have respect for the German soldiers?
Yeah, in a way. We had details of them doing some work for us, for a while, but that didn't last long. I don't know what they done with them after that.
What was it like reuniting with your wife and daughter after the war?
It was quite a thing.